Vice Chancellors, Sir and Madams, and distinguished speakers, Ms. Harshita Raghuvanshi and Dr. Elena Samantray, Dr. Bandana Singh, Chairperson ICAS Committee, and all the regional directors, academics, posted at regional centers, directors of all divisions, schools, unit, cells, faculty members, headquarter, and all participants. I, on behalf of RSD CAS, welcome you all to the orientation program on the University Policy on Prevention, Prohibition, and Redressal of Sexual Harassment at the Workplace 2018. The program is also being live streamed through YouTube for wider circulation amongst IGNOU fraternity. As per our tradition, let us start the program with our Kulgeet. I request Mr. Shiv Kumar to play. Recording भी नहीं हुआ ना? Recording नहीं हुआ.
आ रही है सवाल बहुत कम आ रही है मेरे इसमें नहीं पिक्चर तो हटाइए मैंने क्लोज है ना मेरा बंद नहीं हो रहा
साउंड क्यों आ रहा है?
डॉक्टर रंजिता पंडा, आप अपना माइक अनम्यूट कीजिए और फिर बोलिए।
Yeah, can I hear? I'm sorry for the inconvenience. On behalf of RSD CAS, I welcome you all to the orientation program on the University Policy on Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal of Sexual Harassment at the Workplace 2018. Thank you, Amit. It is my sincere request, please. आपका mic मत. Okay, thank you. The orientation program will emphasize on understanding gender equality and sensitization of the staff through the policy on the prevention, prohibition and redressal of sexual harassment of women at the workplace 2018. The purpose of gender sensitization is to create awareness among the working professionals about the importance of gender sensitivity in the organization.
हम तो उसमें अटेंड कर रहे हैं ना,
Being sensitive to the gender, an individual may not properly understand the opposite gender and develop misconception. The concept of gender sensitivity is a way to reduce the barriers caused due to discrimination, misconceptions, and gender bias. Creating the right kind of gender sensitive environment leads to mutual respect, and it's create a right kind of gender sensitive environment leads to mutual respect for all. The concept, we have to know about the concept today, and today we are fortunate to have with us our Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, our Honorable Pro Vice Chancellors, senior officers with us to inspire us and guide us with their valuable inputs on this important topic. Before we formally proceed with the program, let us watch a small video on the feedback of learners on their impression on the university policy, prevention, prohibition and redressal of sexual harassment at the workplace 2018. I request Shiv Kumar ji, please. Mic बंद करना.
पारुल, आवाज नहीं आ रहा है।
Sexual harassment of women.
मुझे अच्छी तरह मालूम कि सभी कार्यस्थलों या शैक्षणिक संस्थानों की तरह इग्नू में भी महिलाओं के साथ होने वाले यौन उत्पीड़न की रोकथाम और उसके निवारण के लिए एक पॉलिसी है।
No, I was not aware of IGNOU having a policy on prevention and prohibition of sexual harassment for women.
Yes, I'm aware that university has a policy on prevention, prohibition and sexual harassment.
मुझे prevention, prohibition and redressal of sexual harassment of women at the workplace 2018 के बारे में पूरी तरह से
फिर आवाज गायब हो गया है। पारू लाओ तो।
Or with the teachers who came as counselors to take our practicals or classes. So IGNOU has been super supportive. The staff has been super cordial throughout.
Teachers are very supportive, and the atmosphere of National PG is very, very convenient and supportive for us. We don't have any issue over there. We are completely safe.
Ma'am, as far my experience, since we have not experienced any harassment, I'd only suggest that you can keep one toll-free number or any contact email ID, one common email ID for the female.
सेंटर्स पर आने वाले सभी विजिटर्स का एक रजिस्टर मेंटेन किया जाए जिसमें उनके जो है आईडी और इसके साथ साथ मोबाइल नंबर जरूर दर्ज किया जाए और कोशिश यही की जानी चाहिए कि इनकी क्लास दिन के समय लगाई जाए जिससे कि ये सेफली अपने घर को पहुंच सकें.
This policy and is introduced in the orientation itself. It will be a great help for the female students and women learners who can know that there is such a policy and they can seek help if they face any kind of harassment.
फिर मैं चाहूंगी कि इसके लिए कोई ऐसा छोटा 6 महीने सर्टिफिकेट प्रोग्राम या फिर कोई अवेयरनेस प्रोग्राम स्टार्ट करना चाहिए ताकि सभी को अवेयर कराया जा सके. शॉर्ट टर्म कोर्सेज जो हो उसमें इसको शामिल किया जाना चाहिए और उसकी एलिजिबिलिटी भी 10th रखनी चाहिए ताकि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा हम स्टूडेंट्स को इसके बारे में अवेयर कर सकें.
If at all possible, we can add one link on your website saying for there's a mailbox for the female. If they have any complaint or regret about anything, they can put it in that box so that it can be addressed and it will be totally under confidential.
Really, we are thankful to Director EMPC and the team for providing such a wonderful, beautiful short video within a very short period. And now, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Madam, you are muted.
Thank you, sir. Now it is my pleasure to invite our Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, sir, Dr. Shrikant Mahapatra, to deliver his initial remarks. Dr. Shrikant Mahapatra served as first Vice Chancellor of Odisha State Open University for almost 5 years. In IGNOU, he has discharged various responsibilities like Director Regional Service Division, Registrar Student Evaluation Division, Director EMPC, Register Administration, and PVC since 24 February 2022. During his long tenure of more than 27 years in the university, he has got wide experience in the field of student support services, general administration, and evaluation under distance education system. His knowledge and vision in distance education have been a guiding force for all of us. Sir, over to you, sir.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, IGNOU, Professor Nageshwar Rao ji, our two distinguished speakers for this evening, Madam Harshita Raghuvanshi, a lawyer in the Supreme Court of India and the Delhi High Court. Dr. Elena Samantarai, who is also a distinguished speaker and an invitee to this program today. On behalf of the university and on my own behalf, we heartily welcome you both, madam, to this very, very pertinent topic on which we will be deliberating today, that is prevention, prohibition, and redressal of sexual harassment at workplace. So this is a law. I think these are offshoots of the Visakha guidelines, and every youth of the country, every citizen of the country should be aware of these guidelines and rules and laws, and particularly those who are working in various sectors of our economy, how sexual harassment takes place at the workplace, how gender sensitization is so essential for us to know. Because when I was in Orissa, the Department of Women and Child Welfare, Government of Orissa, used to encourage all the universities to conduct one-day gender sensitization programs, and for which they used to give monetary support of 50,000 rupees. So I had that opportunity of conducting gender sensitization programs in many of our study centers and many of the colleges where our study centers have been located. And the response that I have received from both the resource persons and the students, not only of distance education programs, but of regular university programs, what was quite encouraging. And I found that these gender sensitization programs needs to be conducted at all offices, all workplaces, and particularly in higher educational institutions. So I compliment RST CAS for taking this initiative of conducting this webinar, inviting not only distinguished speakers, but our regional center staffs to this program. For your kind information, I would like to inform you that there are 58 regional centers across the country and more than 2,000 study centers also. And they are the contact points for our learners. So our staffs, our officers, our faculty members, our coordinators, our counselors, our functionaries needs to be sensitized on a very sensitive issue of how to respect women. So therefore today's webinar is extremely pertinent and relevant. I request all the regional centers to ensure that those who are working in the regional centers are also participating in this program, so that they will know the rules, they will know the law, they will know the guidelines on both gender sensitization and what is the repercussions for any kind of violation of the rules on sexual harassment at workplace. I thank all of you, and particularly the distinguished guests who have come forward to sensitize our staff members at the regional centers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the insightful guidance and enlightening remarks. It will be helpful to all the regional center staffs and us to do the things in a better way. Now it is my pleasure and privilege to invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Nageshwar Rao, sir, to deliver the inaugural address. Professor Nageshwar Rao, our Vice Chancellor, has always strongly supported and encouraged the cause of a safe and secure environment for the women stakeholders of the university, be it for the women faculty and staff of the or the women learners. Under his patronage and his continuous support and guidance, the university has seen the successful implementation of this policy. Today, on this occasion, we are looking to listen to his valuable thoughts and guidance. Sir, now I invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, to deliver the inaugural address.
Good noon to all of you. Harshita Raghuvanshi ji, Helen Samant Rai Madam, my own colleagues and friends. The initiative taken by RSD Cash in organizing this gender sensitivity program for all the people who are working in the regional centers, including the employees, it is a welcome step, and this should be carried on time and again. We are fortunate enough that ours is a 3-tier structure, but at the same time, we have to see that our responsibility is much more. At the headquarters, we are having the schools, the teachers are there, the officials are there, the academics are there. At the regional centers, our own employees and our regional directors and other officials are there. While at the study centers, where the learners, they also reach to get the learning from the study center counselors, that is the most important place where we see that the students, they come over there and they should not face any sort of harassment in this context. At headquarters and at the regional centers, we are having our own employees. The number of employees are also very less. And our regional directors, they are very, very sensitive to look into the specific requirements. When we look at our own people who are at the helm of affairs at the top level, we find that the administration itself is also very, very gender sensitive with respect to the top positions. We are having 2 pro vice chancellors out of 5 pro vice chancellors. And the first time we find that the 2 are there. Then when we look into the directors of the schools, the biggest schools, School of Social Sciences, School of Humanities, School of Continuing Education, and School of Sciences, they all are headed by the women director or the professors who are women, and they are looking into their activities more sincerely and they're more sensitive to the gender requirements. Even the regional center, which is biggest in terms of student strength, it is also headed by our regional director, who is RD, senior RD, and female senior RD. The same is the status with respect to Bangalore, Bhopal, Lucknow, Cochin, and several other places. Our concern is to see that if the top person is conscious about the roles and responsibilities, then the results, they will definitely be better. And that is why we find that in most of the situations, they initially try to sensitize not only their own staff, but also to the study centers where the students are coming to get their knowledge. The counseling sessions, they are also being carried on in the study centers. So there we have to see the focus, and maybe much more efforts are required Of course, we are not getting any complaints for the purpose, but we should not wait for the complaints. Our purpose is to see that such situation does not come in the institution as a whole, because the institution must preserve its goodwill and its image also. We are having one specific school of gender studies also, which is also running a few courses in the field of gender studies, that too at MA level also. And the response is very good there also. So we are trying to look into the areas where such activities may not take place. But the initiatives which the RSD Cash is also taking, we are also having a one RSD for the iCash activities for the university as a whole, which is being led by a professor of education. So find that at various levels, even in the regional centers also, we are having these iCash centers and iCash committees. They are also being constituted, and they are continuously monitoring our activities. And in case of any issue, it comes to us, we immediately try to look into it and even go for extreme penal actions. The purpose of having this orientation session is not to take extreme actions. The purpose is to, if the people are sensitized, then such things will not happen in the organization. And for that very purpose, we have to extend our awareness campaign even to the study centers also, because basically the learners, most of the learners now, they are going to the study centers only. Of course, once we are going to the online programs, or also we are using the channels for the purpose of counseling, then such eventualities are being made minimum. But even then, wherever the face-to-face counselings are going on, wherever the face-to-face interactions are going on with the staff, with the officials, we have to see that such things, for that also the sensitivity should be created with respect to gender amongst all. And I'm happy to share with all of you that we are not facing such sort of untoward incidents in our organization, even at headquarters or at the regional centers or with the students also. But the awareness is the biggest issue, and for that, when I was listening to the feedback, then a few people, they have said that they are not aware of any of the measures which the university is taking in this context. So let that awareness issue, it should be more focused, and maybe a small videos specifically focusing upon the provisions of 2018 Act, that should be highlighted. And if the people are more and more aware, then the things, they will help the institution in a much better way. Even if that awareness videos, they are being put on our website, because we do have a large number of learners, 35 lakh learners. So their families, they will also be knowing about it, and in the learners, they're also knowing about it. So that awareness issue, which has been talked about by a few responses in their feedback, that also help us to understand that how to move the things in a better way. We are eager to listen to both the distinguished speakers, Harshita ji as well as Ellen, and the insights which they will give, that should definitely be spread all over the university, including all the regional centers, where the prevention aspects with respect to the sexual harassment, that can take place effectively. I wish you all the best for this endeavor. Keep it up and try to see that this particular activity, it has got the social impact, and that impact is very, very important for all of us. And it is also helping us to build our image, the brand image of IGNOU, because it is called as People's University. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you, sir. for your kind words and guidance. As advised, we shall strive to inculcate the gender sensitivity amongst all the stakeholders, and we will bring this advice and guidance of your words in future, sir, with all the regional center and all our student learners. We'll pass it to them. Now I would like to request Professor Vandana Singh, Professor School of Education and Chairperson ICAS, to share her views. Dr. Vandana.
नमस्कार सभी को और am I audible, sir? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Namaskar. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, sir, my senior colleagues and also experts from the area. This is indeed a good opportunity and also a good initiative which has been taken by the chairperson of RST Cash Committee. And as a chairperson of the iCash committee, I only congratulate her endeavors for that. And as far as our policy as far as the implementation of Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act, which was given out in 2013, the Gandhi National Open University has constituted 3 internal committees. That is, one is the Indira Gandhi National Open University's internal Sexual Harassment Committee. Then there is a committee at the regional center, and then there is another committee which works at the apex level. So all the complaints can be directly go to the apex level. And we have different people, those who are coordinating these activities. And in order to ensure the effective implementation, as we all know, our university has a widespread. So therefore, all these 3 committees, those are working at different level, they work harmoniously in order to achieve the goal of creating a better workplace for each one of us. And keeping in view with all this, what we have done, there are a lot many initiatives which we have taken at the university level. We have created a video program as well as audio program to create the awareness about this particular important issue. And also time to time, we are also, conducting various training programs so that our colleagues are also knowing about their rights and the responsibility in terms of implementing this policy in a much, much better way. So I think this program will also help each one of us to understand our responsibility towards creating a better workplace for all of us. So with this, I thank you all and for inviting me to the evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam, for your lucid explanation on the policy. And now the time to listen our guest speaker. The first guest speaker, Ms. Harshita Raghuvanshi. She is an independent legal practitioner. She has been practicing in Supreme Court of India and Delhi High Court and other forums. Ms. Harshita has a vast experience in matters relating to service, constitution, education, corporate and labor, criminal, revenue and banking. As a lawyer, also in the panels of IGNOU and many other universities. Thank you, madam. And now again, I would like to invite you, because so many participants are here to know about the legal aspect, as our Honorable Vice Chancellor sir and Pro Vice Chancellor sir already sensitized the issue. And just we are waiting for your.
Yes, ma'am. So I'll take it forward from here. My greetings to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, to Pro Vice Chancellor, sir, to all the distinguished people who are here in the conference, and all the people who are in the audience listening to this. I would like to present the presentation. Ma'am, am I allowed to present it?
Yes. Yes, ma'am, please.
Yes, ma'am. Just a second.
Dr. Ranjita Panda, someone should allow her presentation to come on the screen.
Yes, sir.
Please allow.
Yeah. Dr. Harshita, please. Send it to us because it is not with us, please, so that it will be.
Ma'am, I can present from my window as well, but it's not opening. So, that have you allowed me the access, ma'am?
I think screen sharing is to be allowed.
Yeah, we are doing.
Ranjita ji, please allow her.
Yeah.
Presentation.
Yeah. Screen sir इधर है ना इधर यहाँ से इधर screen I think same.
Ma'am, should I send you the presentation?
Please.
All right, ma'am. Just a second. Let me. Ma'am, I've WhatsApped you. Am I visible?
Yes, you are visible.
Yes, madam.
Is my screen also visible?
Yes, madam.
Can everybody see the prevention of sexual harassment reference handbook of the IGNOU?
Yeah.
It's visible.
Yeah, it is visible.
All right, ma'am. So, because before starting anything about the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act, I want to start with the introduction of the university policy on the act itself. Ma'am, am I visible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you are. You are visible.
All right. Yes, ma'am. So, you can see the policy. It starts with the introduction, wherein it deals with the introduction to the woman's right against the sexual harassment, the prevention and prohibition of it, so that ma'am, is it visible now?
Yes, it is visible.
Yes, you are visible.
And I would request all the participants to kindly mute their mics so that we are able to listen to the experts, please. Thank you.
Somehow, ma'am, this is not going down. Just a minute, ma'am.
मैम there's a request, आप ऐसे ही present करिए and we can later play this. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. If everybody can see in the third paragraph in the introduction itself, it says that the sexual harassment of women at the workplace was enacted with the objective to guarantee that women have safe working conditions and provide enabling work environment with respect to women's right to equality of status and opportunity. Now, the introduction, the object was only to safeguard the women who are working in the workspaces and am I visible?
Yes, ma'am, you are. Please go ahead. Yeah, you are.
Because there seems to be a... Yes, ma'am. There's this glitch from my side, I believe. The university policy was implemented pursuant to the enactment of the Act of 2013. The university policy, on the prevention, prohibition, redressal of sexual harassment of women at the workplace 2018. Now, the policy itself contains the major portions of the Act and it summarizes the objectives of the Act as well. The main objective of the policy, it has been stated here that it is to prevent and prohibit sexual harassment of women at the workplace, to promote a workplace which has a safe and congenial work environment based on equality, freedom, and discrimination, violence against women. Now, here we have to understand, firstly, this talks about the discrimination which is based on gender biasness and also against the violence which perpetuates from that. It also talks about the conduct of inquiries when there are some complaints of sexual harassment. It also talks about the permanent mechanism of prevention, prohibition, and redressal system within the jurisdiction of the university to determine the implication of sexual harassment on the duties, responsibilities, and rights of various stakeholders involved in the process, to actively promote a social, physical, and psychological environment that will raise awareness about and deter the acts of sexual harassment, which we are conducting right now, an orientation program for that, to ensure the implementation of the policy in letter and spirit by undertaking all necessary reasonable steps, including the constitution of appropriate internal complaints committee. Now, we have to see how the Act and this policy, which has been enacted under the Act, is applicable. It is applicable to all the employees of the university, whether they are permanent or temporary. It includes student, it includes service providers, it includes visitors. Let us understand what constitutes sexual harassment. Now, before talking about this thing, if we see that where does the sexual harassment is defined, so it is defined in section 2 of the Sexual Harassment Act of 2013. And what actually constitute a sexual harassment is, one, a physical contact and advances, a demand or a request for sexual favors, making sexually colored remark, showing pornography, or any other unwelcome physical, verbal, non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. So we have to understand what actually constitute a sexual harassment. Harassment could be of a different nature as well, but here the Act provides what actually constitutes a sexual harassment, and policy has also incorporated that, making it in a form to understand easily for all the people. We understand from here the following circumstances among other circumstances, if they occur or are present in relation to or in connected with any other act or behavior of sexual harassment, may amount to sexual harassment. First, implied or explicit promise of preferential treatment in her employment. Second, implied or explicit threat of detrimental treatment in her employment. Third, implied or explicit threat about her present or future employment status. Fourth, interference with work or creating an intimidating, offensive, hostile work environment for her. Humiliating treatment likely to affect her health or safety. Publish or cause to publish or transmit any information in electronic form or by means of a computer resource or a communication device which is obscene, offensive, humiliating, or has a menacing character. So these behavior, these advances, these contacts, these verbal, non-verbal conduct of sexual nature, all these things will come under the purview of sexual harassment. Now, if any such incident happens, so what is the redressal for that? What is the mechanism for that? The Act provides that, and in the policy, it has been incorporated. We'll have a look at that also over here. Now, there are internal complaint committees at different levels. First is the Regional Center Committees Against Sexual Harassment, which is RC CASH. Now, in the university, these committees are set up at regional center or for a group of regional centers of the university, have jurisdiction over all complaints received at the regional center and all study centers within the supervisory jurisdiction of the regional center. A lot of members from RC CASH are also here. Members from the regional centers are here. They are very much aware that what the internal complaint committee is and the committee at the regional center. Now, the second one is the Regional Service Division Committee Against Sexual Harassment, which is SD CASH. This committee is set up at the university headquarters as a supervisory complaints and redressal body. This committee shall oversee all RC CASH committees within its supervisory jurisdiction. It also functions as an overseeing body for all awareness and preventive work related to the policy at the regional center. IGNOU Committee Against Sexual Harassment, ICASH, is the third level of the committee, which is set up at the university headquarters. The committee has jurisdiction over all complaints at the university headquarters. The fourth one is the Apex Committee, Sexual Harassment. This committee is set up at the university headquarters. This committee functions at the appellate body for all the complaints filed with RC CASH, RSD CASH, and ICASH. So, the internal complaint committee at different levels, regional center level, regional service division level, IC CASH level, and Apex CASH level has been defined here. Now we'll go ahead with the procedure for filing of complaints against a sexual harassment. This procedure for filing complaint against sexual harassment is provided in Section 9 of the POSH Act 2013. The policy here tells the format under, like, if a situation arises, how should one file a complaint against sexual harassment? It states that any aggrieved woman may make in writing a complaint of sexual harassment at workplace to the internal complaint committee concerned within a period of 3 months from the date of incident, and in case of a series of incidents within a period of 3 months from the date of the last incident. There's also a Form 1 which is there in the policy, and in that form one can easily write and submit the contents of the sexual harassment which has occurred. In cases where such a complaint cannot be made in writing, the presiding officer or any member of the internal committee, as the case may be, shall render all reasonable assistance to the women for making the complaint in writing. Ma'am, should I also speak in Hindi?
Yeah, you can. आप हिंदी में बोल सकते हैं.
No, because for the I thought that it would be better for people who would understand it better in Hindi as well.
Yeah, you can.
All right, ma'am. So the procedure for filing a complaint for sexual harassment is also provided, and it can be filed in the form 1. It can be given by way of writing, and if a person is not able to make that complaint in writing, the presiding officer or any member of the internal committee can give some assistance to that woman for making the complaint in writing. So here also, ma'am, and everybody should understand this thing, that the procedure for filing complaint should not be made tedious, and the effort should be to provide all the facilities, and the sensitization is required in this regard as well, so that people may
Ma'am, please continue.
Yes, ma'am. So ma'am, here also sensitization is required. Our behavior, our approach towards a complainant who's a woman, who's aggrieved, should be to facilitate her, to provide her reasonable assistance so that she can make a complaint. If she's not able to make it in writing, then we should provide all the facilities so that she can make it in writing. The following exceptions also would be admitted. So there is exceptions also. It's not required. I'll just read out the exceptions as well. Where the aggrieved woman is unable to make a complaint on account of a physical or mental incapacity or death or otherwise, her legal heir may do so. The aggrieved woman can also file a complaint through email, online grievance portal, or account of her physical incapacity. In case of forced confinement of the person, a complaint can be brought by another person on behalf of the complainant. In exceptional cases, third-party witnesses, complainants may also be entertained. So the Act also provides for exceptions. It is not necessary that if the woman is not in a mental capacity or is having a trauma after the sexual harassment incident, a person who's related to, whose legal heir, can also make a complaint on account of her. She can lodge a complaint through an email, online also. And any other person who is aware of that incident, who has been a witness also, can also file a complaint on behalf of her. The Act also provides, in the case of third party outsider harassment with the consent of the aggrieved woman, the university can take immediate steps and initiate action by making a complaint with the appropriate authority having jurisdiction over the offense. Over here, the Act is saying that if there are third party or outsider harassment, the university can also, or the employer can also help and facilitate in filing an FIR or a lodge a criminal complaint under section 354A and 509 IPC. Now over here, the grievance redressal mechanism at the IGNOU headquarters is given. We can see in the flow chart how the issue, if not resolved, would be finally addressed by the Vice Chancellor, the student staff. From there, it's the IGNOU cache, then the Apex cache, and then the Vice Chancellor. The procedure is also provided here, communication through email or verbal. Grievance redressal mechanism at regional centers. Students, staff can provide it to the nodal officers, to the RC cache, to the RSD cache. Then if it's not resolved, then the Apex cache would look into it. And after that, the Vice Chancellor would look into it. Now, after a complaint has been lodged, what is the procedure? How the inquiry would be held? How the complaint would be, the complainant and the person who has been accused of would be given an opportunity to present his case, his defense, his reply. All of that has been given in section 11 and 12 and 13 of the Sexual Harassment of Women (POSH) Act 2013. Here also a timeline has been provided in the policy. The timeline, the submission of the complaint within 3 months of the last incident, notice to the respondent within 7 days of the compilation of the inquiry. I think it should be completion of the inquiry. Completion of the inquiry within 90 days. Submission of the report within 10 days of the completion of the inquiry. Implementation of the recommendation. Now the inquiry report would come with some recommendation. It could be anything. If it's proved, then there could be some recommendation. If it's not proved, then also there could be some recommendation. And against that recommendation, the appeal would lie within 90 days. So a timeline has been provided over here. But I would also like to talk about a little on the conciliation part of it. Section 10 of the Act provides that if the internal committee, as the case may be, before initiating an inquiry under section 11 and at the request of the aggrieved woman takes steps to settle the matter between her and the respondent through conciliation, provided that no monetary settlement shall be made as the basis of conciliation, where a settlement has been arrived under section 1 of the internal committee or local committee, shall record the settlement so arrived and forward the same to the employer with the specified recommendation to take action. Internal committee can record the settlement which has been received, and it should be given to the aggrieved woman as well as the respondent. Where a settlement is arrived under section 10, no further inquiry shall be conducted by the internal committee. So there is an opportunity of conciliation between the parties, which is provided under section 10 of the Act 2013, and which says that before initiating the inquiry at the request of the aggrieved woman only, it says, the Act is very clear that it cannot be just done like that. There has to be a request by the aggrieved woman to settle the matter through conciliation, then that mechanism is also provided in the Act. And once a conciliation is arrived at, a settlement has been reached between both the parties, then it bars that once the settlement is arrived, no further inquiry shall be conducted by the internal complaint committee. That is with respect to the conciliation. Now, Section 11 of the Act provides for inquiry into the complaint. It says that once an inquiry has to be conducted, where the respondent is an employee, the internal committee should proceed to make inquiry into the complaint in accordance with the provisions of the service rules applicable to the respondent, and where no such rules exist, in such manner as may be prescribed, or in case of a domestic worker, the local committee shall, if prima facie case exists, forward the complaint to the police within a period of 7 days for registering the case under Section 509 of the IPC. Now, the inquiry into the complaint, the manner in which the inquiry would be conducted, the powers which the internal complaint committee has is equivalent to a civil court. Section 11 deals with this. I would read out the relevant portion to you. For the purposes of making an inquiry under subsection 1, the internal committee or the local committee, as the case may be, shall have the same powers as are vested in a civil court under the Code of Civil Procedure 1908. A suit in respect of the following matters, namely summoning and enforcing the attendance of any person and examining him on oath, requiring the discovery and production of documents, any other matter which may be prescribed. The inquiry shall be completed within a period of 90 days. Now, it is interesting that the power of a civil court has been given with respect to the manner in which an inquiry has to be done. But the proof is not equivalent to a criminal court proof. The proof, the standard of proof which is required in a inquiry in sexual harassment matters is not like a criminal proof. It is important also here to, I just want to read out this thing, because many a times people think that if an inquiry would be set up against anybody, then that person would not be given a proper opportunity of being heard or to present his case. The Act provides it that where both the parties are employees, the parties shall, during the course of inquiry, be given an opportunity of being heard, and a copy of the findings shall be made available to both the parties, enabling them to make representations against the finding before the committee. Now, the Section 12 of the Act deals with the inquiry into the complaint. What are the actions during the pendency of the inquiry? Now, this is a very important aspect, and as a lawyer and the cases which we deal, I think this section, the action during pendency of an inquiry, what action should be taken during a pendency of an inquiry when the complaint has been lodged and
inquiry has been set up. What are the action during the pendency of the inquiry? Section 12 talks about that. It says that during the pendency of an inquiry on a written request made by the aggrieved woman, the internal committee may recommend to the employer to transfer the aggrieved woman or the respondent to any other workplace, grant leave to the aggrieved woman up to a period of 3 months, grant such other relief to the aggrieved woman as may be prescribed. Now, these are recommendation by the internal committee to the employer during the pendency of the inquiry to transfer the aggrieved woman where it is not the working condition, the working environment has become really toxic, and it would be better for her mental health to be transferred. Then the aggrieved woman could be transferred, or the respondent, the person who has been accused of, could be transferred to any other workplace. Secondly, it provides that the leave should be granted to the aggrieved woman, which could be up to a period of 3 months. And it also talks about grant of such other relief. The other relief could be anything which could actually be helpful for the aggrieved woman from recovering from the mental trauma of the harassment. Subsection 2 provides that the leave granted to the aggrieved woman under this section shall be in addition to the leave he should be otherwise entitled. Subsection 3 provides on the recommendation of the internal committee, as the case may be, the employer shall implement the recommendation made under subsection and send the report of such implementation to the internal committee. So, during the pendency of an inquiry, these are the steps which are provided under the Act, which, on the recommendation of the internal committee, the employer can or may take. Now, once the inquiry report is made, Section 13 deals with that. Section 13 deals with on the completion of an inquiry under this Act, the internal committee shall provide a report of its finding to the employer within a period of 10 days from the date of completion of the inquiry, and such report should be made available to the concerned parties. Now, the inquiry report. What is the inquiry report? Whether the offense has been proved, whether the offense has not been proved, it talks about that. Where the internal committee arrives at the conclusion that the allegation against the respondent has not been proved, it shall recommend to the employer that no action is required to be taken in the matter. Where the internal committee arrives at the conclusion that the allegation against the respondent has been proved, then in that case, it shall recommend to the employer to take action for sexual harassment as a misconduct. Now, we have to understand here, this sexual harassment, if proved, it will amount to be a misconduct in accordance with the service rules applicable to the respondent, or where no such service rules have been made in such manner as may be prescribed. The second recommendation could be to deduct from the salary or wages of the respondent such sum as it may consider appropriate to be paid to the aggrieved woman or to her legal heirs under the provisions of Section 15. Then it also provides that if the respondent is not able to give the compensation which has been recommended by the internal committee. Ma'am, can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes,
Yes.
madam.
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just getting a call from Ranjita, ma'am. Is everything all right, ma'am?
Yeah, it is all right. Kindly wind up, ma'am, because already it is already. So that's why it is my sincere request.
All right. No, ma'am. Because ma'am, I thought that the committee matters and all these things would.
Yeah. Please.
Yes, ma'am. So, section 11 and 12 and 13 deals with the inquiry into the complaint, the inquiry, and the inquiry recommendations. After that, the policy over here, which is of the university, it deals with the appeal, the complaint. The complainant and the defendant shall have the right to appeal within 90 days. And this is provided in section 18. Now, we will deal with the punishment for false or malicious complaint and false evidence. The section is section 14 in the corresponding act. And the act is very clear that if the complainant has made a malicious complaint or has provided false evidence, then there is a punishment prescribed for that as well. To the complainant for making false and frivolous and malicious complaint, where the internal committee, as the case may be, arrives at a conclusion that the allegation against the respondent is malicious, or the aggrieved woman or any other person making the complaint has made the complaint knowing it to be false, or the aggrieved woman or any other person making the complaint has produced any forged or misleading document, it may recommend to the university to take action against the woman or the person who has made the complaint of sexual harassment, as the case may be, in accordance with the provisions of the service rules applicable to her or him, or if no such service rules exist, in such manner as may be prescribed. Now, here it is important that the inability to prove the complaint or provide adequate proof will not attract against the complainant under this clause. Further, it is necessary that the malicious intent on the part of the complainant shall be established after an inquiry in accordance with the procedure prescribed before any action is recommended. So, people should refrain from filing malicious complaint. At the same time, this section does not deter people who have filed complaints but have not been able to prove it because there is inadequacy of the proof or inability to prove it. That will not attract this this punishment. I just wanted to make that clear as well. Now, the penalties which has been provided in the policy, any member of the university, including academic staff, non-teaching staff, student, service provider, resident found guilty of sexual harassment shall be liable for disciplinary action. The penalties listed below are indicative and shall not constrain the university authorities from considering others in accordance with the rules governing the conduct of all members of the university. So part A is with respect to the teachers, academic, administrative, technical, non-technical staff, management, disciplinary action could be in the form of any one or more of the following. This deals with warning, written apology, bond of good behavior, gender sensitization, counseling, adverse remark in the confidential report, debarring from supervisory duties, denial of membership of statutory bodies, denial of re-employment, stopping of increments, promotion, reverting, demotion, transfer, dismissal, withdrawal of residential facilities, and prohibition from entry on the campus, any other relevant mechanism. The part B, in case of students, disciplinary action could be in the form of warning, written apology, bond of good behavior, gender sensitization, counseling, debarring entry into a hostel campus, withholding result, debarring from exams, debarring from holding post, expulsion, denial of admission, any other relevant mechanism. The policy also talks about in case of third party harassment, outsider harassment, or harassment by the service provider, the center university authorities may issue a warning, reprimand, or censure, a letter communicating his misconduct to his place of education, employment, or residence, a declaration of the campus as out of bounds for him, or bar and on appearing for the entrance examination, interview, to any program of study offered by the university, a letter for withdrawal of the right to run, manage work in any commercial enterprise, or to provide services on the campus. The person may be advised to undergo counseling and gender sensitization and to give a written and public apology to the complainant. Penalty in cases of a second offense. A second or repeated offense may, on the recommendation of the Internal Complaint Committee against Sexual Harassment concern, attract an enhanced penalty. So, I started with the policy of the university, which was 2018 policy. And now I'll quickly go through my own presentation because I majorly wanted to emphasize on the university policy, which was made pursuant to the Act of 2013. And I'll start with this saying by Swami Vivekananda: a country, nation which do not respect women have never become great nor will ever be in future. The discussion, we all know that gender sensitization at workplace, awareness of the legal aspects of the university policy, and I've gone through the university policy of 2018. Gender sensitization requires an understanding of what a woman feels when she is sexually harassed. Though stereotyping is itself unwarranted, it has been noticed that just as in other sexual offenses, a woman goes through a lot of soul searching. Again, due to gender conditioning, she tries to adopt measures of self-protection by avoiding the perpetrator, maybe even by taking leave. Don't be ashamed of your story. It will inspire others. What is sexual harassment? We have gone through that. Aspect of gender discrimination, aspect of violence, creating of hostile work environment, threat of something in exchange of sexual favors. Sexual harassment is a serious issue that needs to be addressed at all workplaces urgently and sensitively. I just want to go through a recent judgment of Delhi High Court. It's a brief one. I'll just wind up in 5 minutes.
Just
is it all right?
Ma'am, just 1 minute because second speaker is waiting.
1 minute, all right, ma'am. 1 minute. I'll try to wind it.
Please, thank you.
No problem. So in this matter, what happened was the Delhi High Court held that with regard to gender conditioning, court noted that where the man develops a superiority complex while the woman doubts her own capacity starts very early in life. It need not be in the form of a tutorial, but certainly a subtle data of the minds of young children about their privilege or lack of it. Every institution and organization must declare zero tolerance for gender insensitivity. In this instant case, the appellant did not know about the appropriate authority before whom to file her initial complaint. When asked by it as to why she had lodged the complaint directly to the headquarters, she answered that she did not know the address of the women's cell at the ESI hospital and had made an inquiry from a concerned person and submitted her complaint to the complaints committee. The bench also added to its observation that it cannot be overlooked that the internal complaint committee is intended as a platform to provide an environment of confidence to the complainant. Absence of eyewitnesses to the incident cannot detract from the credibility of the complainant, as her statement is to be considered independently to determine whether it has a ring of truth or not. What is the way forward? With improved access to education and employment, millions of Indian women are entering the country's workforce. It is crucial that a country we provide all women with safe and secure work environment. It is the responsibility of every employer to ensure compliance of the provisions of the Act, as well as sensitize their employees towards the need to uphold the dignity of women and end gender stereotypes, so as to encourage more and more women to participate in economic activities. This will contribute to realization of gender equality and result in inclusive growth for the benefit of the nation as a whole. Gender diversity of the workplace, educate employees, sensitization, compliance of ICC and LCC. I would conclude by saying this: according to IMF, equal participation of women or gender neutrality would help in raising GDP by 27%. India has a dream of 5 trillion economy. Mere enactment of laws would not help. Need of ours is to overcome stereotypes, prejudices, and gender biasness. Cultural change envisaging gender neutral approach is the need of the hour. Also, I would conclude by saying that yesterday only in the Republic Day parade from the Kartavya Path, the Honorable Prime Minister emphasized on women empowerment, and we should, as a country and people who are working, should ensure that women who are working with us are feeling free to participate, they're feeling secure, and their performance would enhance and increase. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your insightful address and bringing clarity on legal aspect of our IGNOU policy 2018 and other aspects also. It will be a great benefit to our IGNOU fraternity, entire IGNOU fraternity. Thank you.
Ma'am, I would be happy to take some questions, some queries at the end of it. If somebody would want to interact and would want to ask something.
We have a session for that, just for because already time is running.
Yes, ma'am.
So now I would like to invite. Second speaker, Dr. Elina Samantray, to enlighten us on understanding of sexual harassment at the workplace. She is working as a faculty at the Vivegiri National Labour Institute. She is a sociologist and has a PhD degree from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. She has more than 16 years of professional experience and has taught at BHU, Jamia Millia Islamia, and her research interests are in the area of unpaid work, time use studies, gender statistics, work and family life balance, gender and social protection, child labor, child regulation, and international labor standards. She has undertaken several research projects, consultancy assignments with both national and international level, particularly UNICEF, World Bank, ITC, ILO, Turin, and at the Institute on her. She has published extensively and has been invited as speaker in various international and national conferences and seminars in India and abroad. And over to Alina ma'am, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ranjita, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Pro Vice Chancellor, Sir, Dr. Ranjita, Harshita ji, and all participants, officers from IGNOU. A very good afternoon to you all, and I'm very grateful to Ranjita ji for the invite to interact with so many regional centers of IGNOU. It's a pleasure to be with you all this afternoon. I have a small presentation, but I think we are running much beyond time, so I'll try to make it short. And what Harshita ji has already spoken, I would like to skip those aspects and speak on the work which we at VV Green National Labour Institute are doing on workplace harassment, on discrimination, on prohibiting workplace harassment. So I will just try to put up my presentation and see if it is visible for everyone. Ranjita ji, please let me know once it is visible.
No, it is not visible, please.
You know, Google Meet is always uncomfortable because we are so used to WebEx and Zoom, and this platform seems a bit unfamiliar to all of us. I mean, at the National Labour Institute, we have been using a lot WebEx and Zoom. So I was also checking with
Madam, please click on the screen, whatever is appear in your computer, and after that on share button. That will be shared.
Yeah, I have opened it, and then now I'm going back to Google Meet.
First of all, go through share button.
Yeah, that I know. But I'm sharing a window, it's not appearing. That is the only problem I'm having. It's saying can't share your screen, system preferences. I have also shared my presentation with Ranjita ji. In the meantime, if it's possible, if you can share. Ranjita ji, are you able to share? Because it is not allowing me to share.
Ma'am, I think there is some problem at our end also. If you can just share without present without the PPT, would that be okay?
Yes, that will be perfectly fine. That will be
Ha,
perfectly
ha,
fine.
that
But
that
I
would
had
that would
some,
be that would be better.
but I had some data to show as well. But
Oh,
I have shared the PPT with Ranjita ji. If she can share from her side, then it can run and I can go on speaking. Okay, anyways, let me just start. What I wanted to do was to initiate the discussion on workplace violence and harassment. We look at it not from a perspective of confining it to only an issue which deals with a single aspect of violence or harassment where there is a perpetrator or a victim. Rather, we look at the entire issue as a violation of human rights, and that has been a major. Yes, Ranjita ji, I think you are able to share my PPT. Yeah, can you put on the first slide, please? The outline. You need to scroll a bit, Ranjita ji. Anyways, I go on speaking. I mean, if you can put on the outline slide. No, not this, not this. Go to the next slide. Okay.
Next slide.
Next first.
Next slide.
The outline slide. Yeah, okay, yes, perfect. Thank you so much. So this is definitely looked at from a perspective of human rights violation, and also as an obstacle and impediment for achieving decent work. And that has been one of the goals of ILO when the new ILO Convention 190, which got formulated very recently in 2019, called Violence and Harassment Convention. And this convention has a lot to share with us, because one of the prominent aspects of this convention is that it tries to talk about the implementation mechanism, particularly with the role of the labor inspectorates coming into the picture. One of the challenges, I'm sure that all of you were listening to Harshita ji on the legal aspect, on how the law has been formulated and all of that, and what are the provisions. One of the challenges with the implementation of the sexual harassment legislation which we have in India today is the lack of implementation. And since it is first of all, I would like to highlight here that it is a labor legislation, because it has to do with workers. It has nothing to do with common people who are not workers, not with other women who are not working. This legislation pertains to workers, women who are at the workplace. So definitely it is a labor legislation which has to be enforced through a proper labor inspectorate or an enforcement mechanism. And that is one of the challenges which we have in our country on lack of implementation, because the labor department do not have a role. For example, the law does not prescribe the duties and powers of the labor inspector here. So that is one of the challenges when we look at the implementation part. So I'll be talking a bit on that, and also the way forward towards better implementation. Much has been talked already about violence and harassment. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So when we look into the issue of workplace violence in India, there has been a long struggle since the day had signed the CEDAW. I'm sure all of you know about the Convention on Discrimination Against Women, which we had already signed. We had been a signatory to it. Ranjita ji, can you just scroll a bit to the next slide? Slide number 3. Ranjita ji, are you able to hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, Ranjita ji, please go to the next slide, please.
Hello?
I'm so sorry, because this is not allowing me any presentation rights, or else I would have loved to present it myself. You need to just scroll. Anyways, I'll come back. I mean, the workplace harassment which we see, it is definitely enshrined in Sustainable Development Goals 5. And I'm sure many of you are aware about the SDG 5, which aims to eliminate all forms of discrimination and violence against women in the public and private spheres and undertake reforms to give women equal rights to economic resources and promote gender equality. And we have been, this is very, very important, particularly slide number 3, Ranjita ji. This is very, very important, particularly in the context of India's labor market participation, why we try to understand this as a very prominent issue, because this has been one of the factors which has contributed to women's low participation in the labor market. And in India, we have been witnessing a very low participation of women in the labor market. And if we can go to one of the slides where we have the data, now at least we have 28% of women in the labor market, which is very low. Apart from other factors which are responsible for the decline, one of the prominent reasons has been workplace violence and harassment. So that is very important when we look into improving female labor force participation in the country, and also looking into violence and harassment. One of the recent discourses I would like to share with all of you is that now we have moved beyond the legislation which we have, the 2013 legislation. We all know that we have a very powerful legislation, unlike other countries in South Asia. I was doing a study for the ILO in 2019 when this convention was coming, and we realized that India is one country in the entire South Asian region which has got a strong law on violence and harassment at workplace, which many other countries do not have. Sri Lanka has a penal code, Afghanistan does not have, they have family laws, and it's a big challenge for other countries. But at least in India, we have a law which prohibits violence and harassment at the workplace. But yes, for the law to come to picture, it took a long struggle. And we know after the Vishaka judgment, if we can go to the next slide, please. After the Vishaka judgment, and we have been, it has taken more than 15 years when the Vishaka case came for looking into issues pertaining to violence and harassment, or framing a legislation pertaining to violence and harassment. So it has been a long struggle actually from 97 to Vishaka case. Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan was in 97 to 2013 when the law came into place and we had the legislation. So it was when I'm sure all of you are aware about the background of this case, when Bhamri Devi, the social worker, she was gang raped, and that time we did not have any national legislation which would look in. When she was at work, she was trying to stop child marriage. The court at that time decided that the considerations of the international conventions to interpret gender equality need to be taken into consideration, and then they had the Vishaka judgment. And this is based on our India being a signatory to the UN Convention on Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. And Vishaka judgment, which was Justice Verma Committee, they defined sexual harassment for the first time. They hold the employer responsible for sexual harassment, and they talked about formulating guidelines for redressal, and also directing the union and the state governments to implement the guidelines. So this judgment had got enough to share, particularly in terms of a guiding light to formulate the national legislation on workplace harassment. Now, coming back to the legislation, the workplace harassment legislation 2013, which we have in India, we understand this as a legislation which prohibits all kinds of harassment at the workplace, and it can range from unwanted. So when we define sexual harassment under this particular law of the nation, we see sexual harassment as something which is unwanted, unwelcome, unsolicited, and which a person regards as offensive and undesirable. The person does not like it, and the person regards it as something which is very offensive. And when a person communicates that conduct is unwelcome, the person does not consider this conduct as something which is welcome, it becomes a case of sexual harassment. Even if the conduct is not stated but implied, as long as it is unwelcome, it is unlawful. So this has got a very powerful, you can say, a message that women may not be taken for granted in terms of passing of any comments or talking about their physical appearance or talking about or making gestures to them. So it would be something which hampers their dignity, which is at their dignity. These things or these aspects which the woman considers as offensive and is not comfortable at all can be a matter to be tried under the sexual harassment legislation. So it may not be only physical harassment, it can be beyond that. It can be verbal, it can be non-verbal, as the previous speaker was already telling you. So what does it include? It includes physical contact and advances, demand for sexual favors, making sexually colored remarks, showing pornography, any other unwelcome physical, verbal or non-verbal behavior of sexual nature. For example, I'll give you one example to understand this. Maybe this might have happened in your lives as well, and we never realize that the other person might not like it. I mean, we just say certain things for the sake of, very casually, without even trying to understand that what impact or how the other person is taking it. For example, we cannot pressurize any female employee to stay for late hours for evening parties. And this happened very, very recently in an organization about which I know, where they had a late night party for an international delegation, and the person concerned, the woman respondent, did not want to stay back because she said that she had security concerns. She cannot stay back for late night parties, and she may be excused. But the boss said that you have to stay, or else you will be facing the consequences. So even if you use such words which are derogatory, which are against the dignity of a person, pressurizing her, making her uncomfortable to come for parties, which is a casual party and which would have been avoided, where she is not very comfortable, she can definitely think about it, and she can definitely lodge a complaint. So when we look into the entire scope of what does sexual harassment include under this law, it has got a vast application or scope, we can see. Ranjita ji, if you can slightly scroll on, because I'm moving on with the slides. I think the participants can see, all of them can see some of the slides. It is, if we talk about sexual harassment, it is implied or explicit promise of preferential treatment, implied or explicit threat of detrimental treatment. For example, anyone cannot, like, we make gestures. Many times people make gestures for calling people, like in not calling them by name, but indicating them. That is also very offensive. A woman might take it as an offense, and then it might be a case. I mean, she has all the rights to, file a complaint. Interference with her work or creating an intimidating or offensive or hostile work environment. If she is working and there is excessive interference and where an environment is intimidating, where she's not at all comfortable, it's very hostile, then it might be a case of sexual harassment. Humiliating treatment which is likely to affect her health, her dignity, her mental peace and safety. For example, we may refrain from using sentences that तुम औरत हो, आप तो लेडी हो, महिला हो, आप ये काम नहीं कर सकती हो, ये कोई मैन को दे देते हैं. Such words are also offensive. These are sentences or words which might affect the dignity of a woman, and she has all the rights to lodge, or she has all the rights to express that her dissent or that she doesn't like this. So it's many a times there is humiliating treatment. And I remember in certain workplaces, people comment on clothes, what clothes to wear, how to look, like you have to be in full makeup and all of that. Many a times women who are in jobs which does not demand such kind of presentation, that they should be presented like this, they find it very offensive. If it is a media or if it is other, if she's a television presenter, then it might be a different thing. But if it is a job which does not demand, her being, very presentable, using makeup and all, and then people are forcing her to do it, then it might be humiliating for her. So anything which is against her dignity, which affects her dignity, may be a case of sexual harassment. And workplace, the scope of the workplace has in fact expanded from government office, department, branch, to hospitals, nursing homes, clinics, sports institutes, stadiums, gyms, home, agricultural fields, transport, and there is also a concept of extended workplace. Any place visited by employees arising out of employment. So if I go to meet a client at a nearby mall and there is a case of harassment there, then I have all the right to report that, because I have gone to meet that client out of work or work relationship. So it is very important to understand what a workplace means. So the definition of workplace is definitely extended beyond your physical workplace where we are sitting every day or meeting people every day. It can be an extended workplace, and it can be trainees who are coming to the institute or to the organization to get training. Anything happens to them, they also have all the rights to say or voice their concerns. Now, it is the duty of the employer under the legislation to do sensitization, awareness generation, like IGNOU is doing right now, for their employees, so that there is prevention or no such case of sexual harassment at the workplace. And Harshita ji has already mentioned about the complaints committee. You need to have one internal complaints committee. The redressal mechanism, it is twofold. One internal complaints committee where 10 or more workers are working. There needs to be an ICC, and the local complaints committee is per district. And they have the powers of a local court. They can summon the witness, conduct investigations, and gather evidences. And the complaint of sexual harassment can be filed within a time limit of 3 months. And it may be extended beyond 3 months if a woman can prove that there are grave circumstances that prevented her from doing so. And the inquiry has to be done within 90 days of receiving the complaint. So there are a lot of the legislation has made it very strict that you may not delay the inquiry procedure. The inquiry procedure has to be within the stipulated time period, and people may be given justice within that time period. Now, this is all about the legislation, and I think Harshita ji has spoken enough about the legislation. I would just spend few minutes more on looking into how this legislation of India can be aligned to the ILO convention, which ILO has recently launched 190, and India has been a governing body member of the ILO since 1919. And we have been signatory to many of the ILO conventions, and we need to look into international labor standards at workplace. Ranjita ji, if you can come to slide number 17, I would like all of them to see this slide. Ranjita ji, can you hear me? Yeah, it's 17, the international standards on violence and harassment in the workplace. ILO Convention 2019. You can scroll a bit more. थोड़ा और स्क्रॉल कर दीजिए नीचे तक. Okay, till the time they scroll, the international standards on violence and harassment at workplace, which is the new ILO convention concerning violence and harassment, that recognizes that violence and harassment disproportionately impacts women and girls and affects employment, productivity, health, and safety. Now, what I would like to highlight here is that it is very important to consider the recent discourses considering workplace harassment as an occupational health hazard. And I don't know whether you all are aware or not, India has undergone the labor reforms process. The Ministry of Labor has codified the 29 labor laws into 4 labor codes. And one of the labor codes is on occupational safety and health. And internationally, there are debates that the occupational safety, health, legislations need to also look into violence and harassment at workplace, because that also affects a person's psychological, physical, and sexual health. So it is very important to incorporate the legislation on sexual harassment as a part of occupational health and safety legislation. So this convention acknowledges the ILO. And Ranjita ji, just scroll a bit more till slide number 17. So if you look into that particular slide, it talks about the convention, particularly talks about violence. Yeah, skip all of that, come to 17, ILO Convention 190. Not this, not this. I have already spoken. Please scroll a bit more. थोड़ा और नीचे आ जाइए. Number 17. Yes. The one which after this. Please scroll a bit more. After this. Yes, are you able to see, all of you, please, this particular slide? Yes?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so this is a convention of the ILO which talks about violence and harassment from a broader perspective. For example, looking into psychological, physical, and sexual health, dignity, and family and social environment. And it also recognizes that violence and harassment affects the quality of public and private services and may prevent persons, particularly women, from accessing and remaining and advancing in the labor market. So this is very important, particularly for countries like India, where female labor force participation has been declining. And we are grappling with this problem since 2004. Our labor market participation has reduced to 28% as per the recent periodic labor force survey. And this is one of the prominent challenges. And whatever legislation we have, the sexual harassment legislation, no doubt it is a good legislation, but the different aspects which COVID-19 pandemic brought about, we all know, I mean, the entire notion of violence and harassment underwent a significant transformation. Like women who were confined to the households, women or young girls who were confined to the households, they were victims of sexual violence. Women who were working from home, many a times since they were in workplace, they are safe. And many women who were working from home, they were many a times staying with the perpetrators of violence for a longer period of time, or people have access to homes to have cases of violence, even young girls. So this was documented. I'm sure all of you must be knowing, and NCW received so many complaints of this sort during that time. A lot of these cases came up, including cases of domestic violence during that time. So COVID-19 pandemic had brought in the fear, the psychosocial trauma, not only of the virus, which we experienced for the first time in our bodies, or the kind of threat we had to our whole physical and psychological well-being, but also cases like this, which were in the workplace, and there was people who were in few numbers in the workplace, very prone to such cases, and there were media reports during that time. So the entire notion of looking into violence and harassment has transformed over the years. So the whole idea of this convention is that over a period of time, different notions of violence and harassment. For example, an Uber driver, she faces sexual harassment. An Uber driver who's driving a car, now we have the gig and platform economy, and the government is promoting social security for them. We will have more women workers driving taxis or coming to the workplaces in the night, and the clients who show them pornography or who make lewd gestures on them, that also is a case of violence and harassment. So where is she going to report this? Whether our sexual harassment legislation is enough, I mean, documents enough of these incidents, or it is a denial for these women. So we have to rethink about the new notions of violence and harassment which are coming. And this particular convention acknowledges these new areas of violence and harassment at the workplace, which we may have to actually look by revisiting our legislation. Can we just go to the next slide? And I have just one last slide on the discussion. Yeah, the key provisions of this particular convention is, and you need to align your IGNOU policy. You can see whether IGNOU policy is aligned to some of these. I would suggest, to look at the IGNOU policy and see the alignment with the International Labour Standards on Violence and Harassment at Workplace. It aims at identifying hazards and assess the risks of violence and harassment with the participation of workers and their representatives, and take measures to prevent and control. It also provides to the workers and people concerned information and training on identified hazards and risks, including prevention and protection measures. Also, each member need to ensure in consultation with employers and workers that violence is addressed in relevant national policies, including occupational safety and health, equality and non-discrimination, and migration policies. If you remember very well, when the lockdown happened, there was tremendous migration, reverse migration happening. And during that time also workers face a lot of these challenges. It is very important to look into these new ideas on violence and harassment and see how it can be incorporated. Can we move to the next slide? And the role of labor inspectorates becomes very crucial here. The convention very clearly talks about the role of labor inspectorates. So we need to align. Ranjita ji, I have 2 more slides. Can you just move to the next one? Yes. Thank you so much. We need to align the labor inspectorate means we need to align the provisions of Convention 190 with the POSH Act 2013. So what does the Convention 190 say? It says that we ensure that labor inspectorates and other relevant authorities as appropriate are empowered to deal with violence and harassment in the world of work, including issuing orders, requiring measures with immediate force, and orders to stop work in cases of imminent danger. So this provision actually empowers the labor enforcement machinery. That means the Labor Department comes into the picture here, and that would mean enforcement would be more stricter, which unfortunately we do not have in India. In India, the law is enacted by the WCD ministry, and women in the informal sector, many a times, even migrant workers who fall under the occupational safety health legislation, they might be left behind unless and until we treat it as under the OSH legislation of India. So it is very important to align the new labor codes with the international labor standards and the legislation on sexual harassment, which we have already in the country. Now, this convention has been ratified by around very few countries because it is a very new convention. I think 10 countries or 11 countries have ratified it. India has not been a signatory. And what is the way forward to look at? We can go to the last slide, Ranjita ji. When we talk about cases of violence and harassment, we believe that they have got a lot more than to any physical advances or anything which is happening in the workplace. One, it goes beyond the workplace. It goes beyond your physical hurt or harm. It is your mental or psychological harm which a person can get, and that needs to be dealt with adequately. The role of Labor Department is extremely important to be brought into the picture, and particularly in the wake of this new ILO convention, we need to look at it. And a new dimension came up for violence, which calls upon governments to revisit the existing legislative mechanism and develop adequate response mechanism, particularly for workers' well-being, the OSH laws. I'm meaning here the OSH laws. We already have the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code in India. We need to integrate issues of violence and harassment in the code. And international labor standards can provide guidelines for informed policy action in this direction. So with these words, I would like to close by saying that no doubt in India, we have a sexual harassment legislation, but we need, because we have a new convention in place, we already have the labor reforms process taken very seriously in the country. We need to rethink about this legislation, and we need to align it with the new provisions which are coming up and the new changes which the labor market has experienced very recently, even post-pandemic, these changes need to be incorporated, and the law may be made more reachable to women in the informal sectors. So that is all I have to say today. I tried to be on time, but I think I'm slightly beyond time. I told I would speak for 20 minutes. Thank you so much. And sorry for not being able to share my slides. I somehow couldn't do it because of because I could not get the rights.
Thank you, madam, for your wonderful presentation, your insightful, clear vision and understanding on our topic, which will help to build up more strength to provide better clarity on our regulation and policy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Will there be Q&A as well?
Yeah. Now the platform is open for interaction, but it is my sincere request to all, just 1 to 2 questions only, because already time is running short.
Mr. Rajesh has a question. He's raising his hand.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the wonderful presentation, both of you. It was an insightful presentation from which we learned a lot. My question is related to the basic legal aspect of the whole issue. Normally, when we talk about the Indian Evidence Act under Section 3, there are 3 types of proofs that we are talking about. One is cases in which the matter is proved, where it is disproved, and thirdly, we also have a category where it is neither proved nor disproved. In such a case, we do not have a problem with the first 2 categories, like proved and disproved. It is an open and shut case. But in the case where a matter is neither proved nor disproved, which is categorized as not proved, then where does the law stand in cases of sexual harassment?
So I think this question is for me only. As per the section which has been Section 11, if you read the Act, Section 11, subsection 3, it states that for the purpose of making an inquiry under subsection 1, the internal committee or the local committee, as the case may be, shall have the same powers as are vested in a civil court under the Code of Civil Procedure when trying a suit in respect of the following matters. Now, what are the following matters? The powers are there, but to what extent is the power? The power is one thing, summoning and enforcing the attendance of any person and examining him on oath. Like you want somebody to come, you want to examine that person on oath, like what he should, maybe on an affidavit or something like that. Secondly, requiring the discovery and production of a document, like some message was sent, some document, something was published, like you want them to produce that document. So it is pertaining to that aspect only. You see, the CPC provision is pertaining to only to that aspect. Now, what you were saying, that the proof of the evidence, whether it's like proved and not proved. So for that, you'll have to see over here, Section 13, if you read the Section 13 of the POSH Act, you'll see subsection 2 and subsection 3. Subsection 2 deals with whether when the allegations against the respondent has not been proved, it states that it shall recommend to the employer that no action is required. When it's not proved, then no action is required. The complaint ends there. Now, the third section, it states where the allegation against the respondent has been proved. Once it's been proved, then it shall recommend to the employer the misconduct and other, deducted from the salary of. So, the section provides only 2 conditions, proof and not. Third one, which you are saying, we are not dealing here. Whether it's proved, whether it's Like basis could be the evidence, the whole procedure, the complaint is made on certain things. Then you examine those things, and basis that you come to a conclusion whether it's proved and or it's not proved. It has to come both. I mean, it can't be just midway somewhere. You have to come on one side or the other side. So that's the answer to it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Dr. Vinny Toms, Senior Regional Director, and the then RSDK's Chairperson. Dr. Vinny, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ranjita. I'm IGNOU Regional Center, Bhopal. First of all, I would like to thank the authorities for organizing this very important program, and also compliments to Dr. Ranjita for organizing the same. Thanks to both the both persons for the day who have taken up the matter so well and explained it well. Thanks so much to both of you. I have a comment. It is actually to what Alina ma'am said. You said that maybe we will have to see if IGNOU's Act is aligned to other international regulations on harassment of women at the workplace. So, as Dr. said, I was involved with RSD Cash when I was posted at headquarters in Delhi, and was also part of the committee which revised IGNOU's Act in view of the Government of India's Act on the matter. So, as far as we know, or as far as what I thought was, we are supposed to align our act as per the act of our country. Do we really have? Is there a provision actually to incorporate something that other countries across the world might be following? Or I think maybe it is up to the government to do that, and we take it up from there. It's just a comment. Maybe I would request Alina ma'am to react to that.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. I meant that we need to align our policies and legislations, be it for IGNOU or any other university, at par with international labor standards. Now, when I say international labor standards or ILO standards, India has not been a signatory to the ILO Convention 190, and it's a very new convention, 2019. India has not signed many other convention as well, and ILO does not pressurize for signing of the conventions or ratifying the conventions. That is there. But when we talk about international labor standards, the whole idea of framing of international labor standards is to ensure the well-being of the workers. And that is one of the reasons where many countries who have not been ratifying countries, they are aligning their national legislations and policies. If many countries may not have a sexual harassment law like India has, but they might have a policy which they might like to align with the ILO standard, which you can definitely do. It is not that you may have to sign the convention and there would be guidelines from the government for you to do. It is not like that. And IGNOU can definitely they already have a policy much aligned to the sexual harassment legislation of the country. What I meant to say is that in addition, if you can make certain amendments or revisions which you would like to see in alignment with the ILO Convention 190, it would definitely have a more broader scope in terms of reaching out and in terms of covering many dimensions of violence and harassment. You may have, I'm not saying you do not have, you may have, you need to just have to see and how some other countries have done it. So it's not that you have to wait for the government's nod to do this. It's not like that. Any country is free to do any policy. Even at this institute, we can have a policy which is aligned to ILO standards, and not mandatory that we may have to sign the convention for that.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Alina and Dr. Harshita. And because already we know it is already running short of time, and thank you so much for your wonderful interaction. And now just we can plan for the next interactive session with the permission of our Honorable Vice Chancellor in coming month or next month. So now I would like to request one of our senior member, Dr. Vijay Lakshmi Mishra, the one member of Apex Committee, and he has much experience, and she has been working on so many idea and research studies on women empowerment and sexual harassment at workplace. She has conducted so many research projects. Earlier she was in BHU, AIU, and now she is the Director Research Unit and one member of Apex Committee. On behalf of Apex Committee, ma'am, I would like to invite you to share your experience just for 2 minutes, ma'am, please. Dr. Vijayalakshmi Mishra.
Thank you, Dr. Ranjita. I'm really thankful to you for giving me this opportunity. First of all, I would really appreciate the venture under the leadership of our Honorable Vice Chancellor to have given this opportunity to sensitize all our RC members about such an important thing. To our PVC, Dr. Shrikant Mahapatraji, I look up to him for guidance for the future endeavors in this regard, and to all the RDs and the members of RC Cash and not the list, all our distinguished speakers of the day, and who have enlightened us, one on the legal side and other on the implementation and more futuristic side. I really appreciate both the speakers. They have really widened the scope of the discussion, and particularly I would take this opportunity to thank Dr. Elena because she has given a futuristic thing in this aspect, because when she is talking about the ILO, and our country may not be a signatory, but in our organizations, we are not only the working committee, this internal complaints committee, which we are limiting our scope to. So apart from us, there are also workers who are lady workers, female workers who are working in the university system and other organizations. They need to be protected also. And that is the honest duty of every organization to provide all sort of protection to these laborers, to these women laborers, women workers, which Dr. Elena, I was so enthusiastically, I was listening to her, and it was so enlightening, ma'am, to listen to you. I would definitely have some opportunity to listen to you more on this aspect. A country may not be a signatory, but you have to widen the scope of your policy within the institution. Nobody has stopped us. We can align those provisions in our policy, and we can be a torchbearer. We can show the path to others that yes, our policy is not restricted to only 2013 legislation, and we have maximum standards. See, each policy prescribes minimum standard, but nobody stops us when we give something more. So in this way, we become progressive, we become futuristic, and when we do this, people look up to you for guidance. That's what, as we are the largest university in the world, so we can be the torchbearer by aligning such conventions, some provisions in our policy. That will be setting the standard, highest standard, which IGNOU stands for. So with this, I will not take much of time, but I will just take 2 seconds to say that all our dear RC members, this legislation and the allied activities of the RST Cash, iCash, ACash, and at our RC levels, that is very, very important, not only from the level of implementation of the policy, but for the NAC purposes also. On behalf of the RST Cash, because she has already, all our RC members, she has requested to give certain information which is always required for NAC purpose, because the National Accreditation Council, for which the university has to fill up the AQAR every year, we have to show them that we are conducting such activities, orientation activities. We are taking these efforts to sensitize the women workforce as well as our officers of the university regarding the legislation. And we are doing such efforts. As Dr. Elena said, our efforts in this direction to widen the scope will be one of our great ventures. So all our RC members should be requested that whenever the university or the CICA, Center for Internal Quality Assurance of the university, whenever it asks for certain information from your side, unless and until you are very much quite familiar with the legislation and the work process efforts, what should be done, as both the distinguished speakers they told you about, it is much more about sensitizing people. So this is also required for our AQAR. So that is why all our RC members, I think they will be motivated to take up more activities in the future in the line of in both the guest speakers they have told us, and it will be really great for all. Thank you, Dr. Ranjita, for taking up such an activity. I thank the university under the able leadership of our Honorable Vice Chancellor. You have taken up such an activity, and congratulations to both the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your kind word and sharing regarding the information RCS to submit to SICA. Thank you so much. And now I would like to invite our Director, Regional Service Division, and Dr. Umesh Chandra Pandey, presently holds the position of Regional Director, Director, Regional Service Division. He has more than 32 years of experience in planning and implementation of distance education program in India. He went on deputation to work as Director, Knowledge Management in School of Good Governance and Policy Analysis, Government of Madhya Pradesh in Bhopal also, where he worked till 2010, during which he significantly contributed for identification and dissemination of good practices in governance and government. His primary research cherishes the open and distance learning system and sustainable development at present. Sir, I would like to invite to the platform over to Dr. Pandey, Director, Regional Service Division.
Thank you, Dr. Ranjita, and the esteemed invited guests, my colleague. This gender diversity at the workplaces has been an important issue of concern for all the organizations, whether they are corporate organizations or the governmental organizations. So now people widely believe that the organizations which can ensure the greater participation of the women at workplace are more effective, they are more efficient, and they are more productive. And there are the research studies also very clearly show that the gender diversity is something which every organization should try to aspire for. So IGNOU takes this matter very seriously, as we have a mandate to be an inclusive organization. So safe working environment at the regional centers and the study centers will fulfill our mandate. So in this connection, an effective implementation of prevention, prohibition, and redressal of sexual harassment at workplaces, it is crucial. So IGNOU has now, as Dr. Ranjita and other speakers also said, that IGNOU has a very decentralized system of implementation of the guidelines, basically. And at the RC caste level, the complaints received from the RC and LSC are taken care of. At the RSD caste level, it has a kind of a supervisory body. It is a kind of a supervisory body over RC caste. Then there is IC caste, I caste, which is at the IGNOU headquarters. And it deals with the cases including that of RSD. And A caste, that is the apex and affiliate body at the headquarters, which guides for the, at the same time, creates awareness, prevention, and redressal of the grievances. So this is kind of a 4-tier kind of a structure which IGNOU has developed. It very much suits to an organization like IGNOU, which is such a widespread geographically. It is so widespread, and at the same time, it involves so many institutions where we have got study centers. And therefore, the kind of a setting which IGNOU actually addresses for the implementation of the policy is a very heterogeneous, very diverse kind of a setting. And therefore, it's a challenging job for IGNOU. But I'm very happy to see that with the kind of a structure we have developed, these things have been effectively addressed. And implementation of this policy calls for a widespread sensitization. This is what I feel that. So in this connection, the awareness programs which are conducted by RSD Cash, they carry a lot of importance. And the recording of, for instance, the recording of this program which we have organized today, it will be available to all the staff members. And what I would like to see is that this kind of program should be organized more often, and not only at the level of RSD cash, but also at the level of regional centers. And so that the study centers also can be suitably sensitized, and this process of awareness should go up to the level of study center. That is very much important. Of course, at the level of within the organizational setup, and for instance, at the level of headquarters and regional centers, it is fine, but we should involve the study centers also in this drive, where actually our students come, and that is actually basic interface of the organization and the students. So at that level, also we need awareness. So I congratulate RSD CAS for effectively doing its role as a supervisory body. And however, such programs, I think, should be properly scheduled now, and RSD CAS can take a lead in this direction. And for all the regional centers, we can plan out such programs. All the regional centers can hold programs, and we, from the RSD CAS officials, can also participate in those programs as a resource person. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on this occasion. And I am very much thankful to the invited guests who are such eminent persons, but they have taken out time to be with us, and we are greatly benefited by their expertise. So thank you very much. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Ranjita.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind word. And we are taking care of your suggestion also. We accordingly will do in further with all the regional center various activity. Now we have come to the end of the program. I would like to request Dr. Rokaijam to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. I, on behalf of the chairperson and all other members of the Regional Services Division Committee Against Sexual Harassment, RSD CASH, would like to take this opportunity to extend our sincere and heartfelt thank you to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Nageshwar Rao, under whose guidance and patronage we have been able to conduct today's orientation program of the RC CAS members and all academics in all the regional centers. Thank you, sir. I would also like to thank our respected Pro Vice Chancellor, Dr. Shrikant Mahapatra, for his constant support and for setting the tone of the entire program through his opening remarks. Our sincere thank you to all our other Pro Vice Chancellors and directors of schools, head of division, centers, units, cells, and directors of regional centers all over the country who all have accepted our invitation and have graciously supported the program by their presence today. A big thank you to our two experts, Ms. Harsita Raghuvanshi and Dr. Elena Samantre, for conducting deeply engaging sessions. Ms. Harsita's choice of words and explaining the university policy is highly appreciable and has brought more clarity to the legal terminologies used. Dr. Elena had clearly spelled out the various causes and issues of sexual harassment at the workplace. I hope all the participants have benefited. Thank you to Professor Vandana for her inputs and remarks during the conduct of the program. A special thank you to the Director of Regional Services Division, Dr. Umesh Pandey, for summing up the proceedings of the orientation program so eloquently and outlining ways to take it forward. Thank you, sir, also for your constant support. We would also like to show our appreciation to Dr. Himanshu Bose, Registrar of Students Registration Division, for his kind support and help. Well, the objectives of the orientation program would not have been met without the active participation of the intended participants for whom this program was organized. So thank you to all the RCCAS members and other academics from various regional centers who have joined and attended the orientation program. Special thank you to Dr. K.D. Prasad, Director EMPC, and his team for accepting our request so willingly and without any hesitation to prepare the short video. Here, I would personally like to take the names of Madam Reena Bora and Madam Ashwini and the editor, Mr. Krishna. Thanks also to the head of computer division, Dr. Murli Rao, who at such a short notice created the Google link made for the meeting. Thank you to the director, COE, for kind support and providing the YouTube link, and to Mr. Ashutosh for coordinating its live streaming. Also, thank you to the team that was on standby and coordinated playing the Colgate and video clippings. I would also like to extend our appreciation to all the regional centers who had taken out time to prepare the video clippings, although because of technical reasons, only the work of 4 RCs are used in the video: RC Jaipur, RC Bangalore, RC Lucknow, and RC Bhopal. It is also my pleasure to thank Mr. Rajesh and CPRO for wide publicity of the program. Last but not the least, I would like to thank the entire team of RSD Cash, our chairperson, Dr. Ranjita Panda, who had tirelessly worked on every minute detail. My colleague, Dr. Momita Das, here I would like to mention that Dr. Das had designed and prepared the program poster. Sima Goswami Madam and Mr. Parag Gupta for a wonderful teamwork in organizing the orientation program. Once again, thank you one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Okaija. Now I would like to request all of you to rise for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा